What's up, football world? I am Bucky Brooks, and this is the Bucky Brooks Show put on by FanDuel Sportsbook. We are excited because we're nearing the stretch run. Coming off the games this weekend, the things are kind of shaking out, particularly in the AFC. And so I'm going to spend most of my time today focusing all on the AFC. Very competitive race from top to bottom, but we're going to start near and dear to my heart in terms of who wins the AFC South. The AFC South is really up for grabs. Jaguars, Colts are tied at the top, 8-4 records. The Houston Texans are right behind them at 7-5. And so you have what we call in the locker room a dash for the cash. If you win the last month, you're going to win the division. You win the division, you get playoff appearances. Playoff appearances lead to more money. So we're super excited about that. But in looking at this division, very competitive division, the Jaguars, the Colts, the Texans are well positioned to win it, but each team is sitting a little differently despite their record. If you ask me, the Jaguars are the most consistent, the Texans are the hottest, and the Colts are fading fast based on how they performed their last four games. What I want to do is break down each of these three teams and tell you why I'm so bullish on them in terms of being able to win it or why I Bleav they're faltered down the stretch. When it comes to the Jaguars, I said it. They're the most consistent. You may not like how they've been winning these games against teams that you would say that they should beat, but they're winning them. And that's really what matters. And if you look at what we do is the last five games since the bye week, the Jaguars have scored at least 25 points in each of those games. They have a 4-1 record in that game, in those games. And the game that they lost to the Houston Texans, they were up 29-10 in the fourth quarter. So even though they fell apart and they melted down, if you really look at the way the team is playing really, really well. And they're doing it with a bunch of different injuries that have prevented them from really putting their best lineups on the field. And everyone deals with injuries. But when you think about their performance, the production, given the circumstances, there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to the Jags. I told you, at least 25 points in each of the last five games. They have a 4-1 record in those games. And if you throw out the meltdown in Houston, man, this team would really be sitting pretty, not only in the AFC South, but in the AFC overall. They've done it against a very tough and competitive schedule. And Liam Cohen is just beginning to kind of settle in, not only as the head coach and leader of the team, but in terms of the quarterback guru that is trying to get Trevor Lawrence to play at his best. Since Trevor Lawrence was given the mandate a few weeks ago, Liam Cohen told him, hey, man, let it rip. Quit worrying about all of the things. Quit worrying about trying to be perfect. Let it rip. Let it go. Play fearless from the pocket. Not reckless, but be fearless. Let the ball go. Throw with touch, timing, and anticipation. You have the arm talent to do so. Let it go. And when you look at that, since that moment, look, 10 total touchdowns, 7 through the air, 3 on the ground. And people are talking about the turnovers. He had a 4 turnover game against the Arizona Cardinals. But what I would tell you was different in that game 2 weeks ago is when he had the mistakes, he never got tentative. He never stopped throwing. He kept firing away. And that played a part in him playing very, very well against the Tennessee Titans because by letting it rip against those zone defenses, he's now able to throw receivers open instead of waiting for his guys to come open. And there's a huge difference in operating in that vein. When you're throwing guys open, you're letting it go and you're trusting that they're going to get to the spot. And that's when the big plays begin to happen. Early in the game against the Tennessee Titans, you saw a quick rip and throw to Jacoby Myers, came right back. Parker Washington threw a touchdown to Britton Strange. That was another anticipatory throw. Those are the things that lead to the explosive plays. And as you see Trevor leaning into this let it rip mentality, this offense is beginning to show more explosiveness. And with Brian Thomas Jr. coming back and the pieces of the puzzle coming together on the perimeter, this offense looks like they're going to be not a juggernaut, but a high-powered offense that can make things happen down the stretch. And then finally on defense, Josh Hines Allen is beginning to come into his own. 5.5 sacks over the last 5 games. He is beginning to get the consistent pressure that you expect, and he's doing it without his buddy. Trayvon Walker has been out. Eric Armstead has been out. So he is having to do it as the one-man show. If you're the Jaguars, you love that. Final part of the defense that you like, coverage in the back end is a little tighter. This is a team that wants to play what we call vision and break, meaning eyes on the quarterback. They want to keep everything in front, rally and tackle, force people to drive the length of the field on short throws. They're doing that. And when the coverage and the pass rush matches, that's when you begin to play good defense. And when you get all of those things working at once, that's when the turnovers come. And with the turnovers coming on defense, the offense playing better, the Jaguars look like the team to beat in the AFC South until you look at the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are the hottest team in the league, and the hottest team because they have one of the best defenses in football. Having seen it up close twice, the Texans defense is phenomenal. Like they have really done a really good job of putting this together. D'Amico Ryan, who's no longer calling the defense, but still has a heavy hand in how this defense plays, really has built together a juggernaut on that side. When you look at their front line, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, these guys are combined for 21 and a half sacks this season, coming off of the heels of a solid performance last year. They are the best duo in football when it comes to pass rushing. Then their fast, physical defense from the second level on allows those guys to back up what is a very disruptive front. You think about how fast they play, how they're able to lock up and play in coverage. And it doesn't matter who's in the lineup, whether it's Stingley out there, whether they have the young guys, Lassiter, those guys playing. It doesn't matter. This defense is really solid in the back end. And what is really impressive, they've done it against a very tough schedule of opponents. We saw on Thursday night when they destroyed the Buffalo Bills a couple of weeks ago, had 8 sacks and had Josh Allen just running all over the place. They could do that because they dominated front, but they also are very, very sticky in the back end. And when they get all of the pieces back, when they get their safety back and they get all of these guys back and playing well, it's hard to imagine teams being able to put up 20 or more points on them consistently. And so because they're so good on defense in that regard, they are now able to play without their offense playing at an A level. Like, think about this. Like, they won 3 games in a row with Davis Mills at quarterback. And Davis Mills is fine. He's probably one of the better backups in the league, but he shouldn't be winning games consistently without the assistance of a defense. And so that's why he's been able to do it. CJ Stroud returned, and what you like in his return against the Indianapolis Colts, 22 of 35, 276 yards, had an interception, but you can see this offense trying to find the rhythm. And if they just become adequate on offense, I mean, middle of the pack, not explosive, just adequate, where they can kind of serve and volley a little bit to spell the defense, take advantage of the short fields that the defense may render up, those things, they are a very, very difficult team to beat. Now, I'll say this about them. They need to be able to run the football better. Got to get a consistent running game because ultimately they need to be able to control the game. You don't want CJ Stroud to have to throw it 40 to 45 times, not because he's incapable of, but it prevents you from controlling the game and helping your defense that is not going to allow a lot of points. You want to be able to run it. You want to be able to shrink the clock, particularly when you're up 4-minute offense and those things to allow your defense to eventually carry the water. So if they can get a little better production from the offense, a little more running game, some explosive plays, Nico Collins and CJ Stroud connecting consistently, man, the Texans are a team, one, that no one wants to face because their defense is that good. And then 2, in a scenario where it's one and done, we've seen CJ Stroud kind of put on that cape and become a superhero when he has to throwing. We just need to get this offense up to snuff. So we talk about the Jaguars being consistent, the Texans being hot. Those 2 teams both can go. Now, the Indianapolis Colts, I'm worried about, and the reason why is because they are fading fast. I'm not trying to say that I'm the bearer of bad news when it comes to Daniel Jones, but I will say it appears that the clock has struck midnight on the Cinderella story. And it hasn't fully come out in terms of like the turnovers and those things. But I think with each week, as the games get bigger, you see that Daniel Jones is more game manager than game changer. And there's nothing wrong with having a game manager until you match up with these elite quarterbacks where you need that quarterback to be a game changer. He doesn't have that in his bag. And when we look at them losing 3 of the last 4, he has been fine. 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, some turnovers and those things. And it hasn't completely fallen off the part, but fallen off the rails. But now what has happened is he's dealing with an injury, a lower leg injury that compromises his ability to do some of the things that he could do earlier in the season. And when Daniel Jones is at his best is part playmaker in the pocket, part perimeter runner that finds a way to pick up these first downs on quarterback runs and scrambles and those things. Well, if he's not able to do that and he's forced to play from the pocket 100% of the time, they don't have the ability to generate those plays because they're solid on the outside. Michael Pittman is good. Josh Downs is good. Tyler Warren looks like he might be a star. Alec Pierce can make plays down the field. But I don't know if you look at your defensive game plan and the scouting report before you play that team, if you're worried about using a double team on any of those wide receivers. Can they consistently win their one-on-one battles? Yeah, if you're paying attention to Jonathan Taylor, but I don't know if they can win on their own accord, which brings me to Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, by far, is the best thing they have going on offense. Leading rusher, he's averaging over 100 yards per game. Great. But it's a little more of a boom and bust factor when it comes to it. Either he'll have a big game where he rushes for 200 and something yards like he did early in the season, or he'll have middling production that is down to the 50 and 60-yard mark, which prevents the Colts from controlling the game and being able to dictate the terms to the offense. Now, part of it, I would argue, is he's not getting enough carries. They're not running the offense through him consistently enough to allow him to have the impact. But regardless, the production is the production, and he has to have more production for this offense to go. If he doesn't have that production, then it puts excuse me, too much on Daniel Jones to have to do everything. And we talked about it. It's one thing to be a game manager. It's another thing to be a game changer. He is not that, which means Jonathan Taylor has to go big, and he has to go big every week. Shane Steichen has to put more of the load on the running back as opposed to the quarterback if the Colts want to get up to speed. Defensively, I love the move when they brought Sauce Gardner over, but Sauce Gardner is hurt. He gets hurt in the game against the Texans, leaves the field, maybe the first, second defensive snap, gone. Calf injury. Looked like an Achilles. He says it's not an Achilles. They're going to do further testing, but regardless, you can't expect him to come back from that injury quickly. That means that the tandem that we expected to see with Gardner and Travaris Ward, where they could lock up, they could play man, they could do some of the things that Lou Anarumo likes to do as he spins the defensive wheel each and every week, they now may not be able to do that. That could mean more zone coverage from them. That could mean more conservative tactics from Lou Anarumo because he doesn't trust the corners that have to go in. And remember, that was an area of concern. I mean, they had put a bunch of dudes over there. It was a revolving door on that island, and now they don't have Sauce Gardner, who is supposed to fill that void. That leaves a huge void on the perimeter. The other thing that you're worried about is DeForest Buckner hasn't been playing of late due to injury. You don't have that dominant presence on the front line. And we talked about championship defense. You got to be able to rush. You got to be able to cover. You lose a cover guy. You don't have your pass rusher. You have a quarterback that is faltering. Doesn't look good for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, at FanDuel Sportsbook, you can get your odds on any of those teams. And when I look at the odds to win the division, let's see how they line up. The Jags plus 145 to win the division, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. The Colts plus 125 to win the AFC South. When I go to it, I understand both of those teams being the first, but they look like two ships going in opposite directions. If I had to put my druthers on it, give me the Jaguars to win it, the Texans to finish second, and the Colts to finish out of the money. I don't even know if they'll make the playoffs. When I look at their schedule and the way they're playing, I think the Colts might have missed their window. So now let's move on from the AFC South and let's kind of venture to what was one of the biggest stories of the offseason, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the reason why the Pittsburgh Steelers were such a big story, a lot of it centered around Aaron Rodgers, but really it's centered around an organization that was doing something that they really hadn't done before. And that was to go all in, to put everything on player acquisition to make sure that they had the talent to be able to go to the next level and to do it at a high level. And in doing so, first, they wanted to invest in a quarterback, and then they wanted to make sure that they took advantage of the defense that they had in place, which was operating at a historic level. When you think about the way this defense was operating, the way that they were performing in previous years, you thought, hey, if we run it back, we add some pieces, they were going to be able to be the dominant defense that everyone envisioned. It hasn't worked out. And it hasn't worked out in I would say, in epic meltdown fashion when I think about the Pittsburgh Steelers and why it hasn't worked out. So let's kind of break this down and talk about why it hasn't worked out. And we'll talk about the offense first. So Aaron Rodgers, they pined for Aaron Rodgers. They wanted Aaron Rodgers. They didn't really participate in the NFL draft, even though the draft had some quarterbacks that could have been available for them and appeared to be good fits. They passed on everybody and decided that Aaron Rodgers was going to be played for them, even though the last 2 years with the New York Jets, he hadn't really delivered anything that team wanted. The injury then came back and faltered and played miserably the last season with the Jets. I don't know why they were hanging their hopes on him, but they felt like, hey, you get a Hall of Fame quarterback, you put him in that building, you're going to have a level of success that is going to get you to the next level, meaning not only get to the playoffs, but maybe make a Super Bowl run. Well, it hasn't worked. Aaron Rodgers looks old. He looks battered. He looks beaten. He hasn't performed very, very well. The numbers don't stand out. Passer rating below 100, not necessarily having the explosive plays that you want. And when you really look at this offense, it's small ball. It's all dink and dunk. It's all quick game, no explosive plays, no passes down the field because Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to get hit. And Aaron Rodgers' arm talent is waning as he gets older. And it's understandable. He's 42 years old. You make a major move to get DK Metcalf, and it's funny, you get DK Metcalf, you send George Pickens packing, and George Pickens looks like arguably the best wide receiver in football. And meanwhile, DK Metcalf looks like a single hitter in Pittsburgh. He has 605 yards. He has 5 touchdowns, but he hasn't delivered the way that you thought that he would deliver for Pittsburgh. You thought that you would get big plays and those things. He hasn't done it. And they need more out of their offense. But the reason they can't get more is they can't run the football. They're not effective at the point of attack with the offensive line, which is young and athletic, but for whatever reason, it's not jobbing. And offensive coordinator Arthur Smith is really operating with his hands behind his back because the quarterback can't push it down the field. They can't run the football. And you have a player in DK Metcalf that is a vertical specialist, but the quarterback doesn't match the talents of the perimeter receiver. And so it's just been an absolute mess. The thing that has always been the saving grace in Pittsburgh has been the defense. The defense has always been able to operate, sack the quarterback, create disruption, take the ball away, do all those things that you want to see. They're not doing it. And the reason why you're frustrated because the Steelers aren't doing it is because they invested in that side. Now, you can debate whether they should have gone all in with an older crew, but they decided that they wanted to reward TJ Watt for the things that he done. Cam Hayward got a deal sweetened. They trade for Jalen Ramsey to give them someone in the back end that they thought would be a lockdown corner, but he has since been moved to safety, not because he couldn't play, but they needed him in the middle of the field. And then Darius Slay was supposed to come over there and give them experience on the corner to give them another threat opposite JPJ, Joey Porter Jr. But man, it just hasn't worked. I mean, this defense has been bad. Early in the year, they were giving up big plays in the passing game because they're trying to play man to man, trying to force the issue, press the issue. And when you play man to man, if you don't keep the coverage tight, explosive plays happen. So they went to a more zone based thing. They moved Jalen Ramsey around. They appeared to shore up some of those things until you look up and see the Buffalo Bills absolutely run through them. Over 200 yards rushing. They're running the same play over and over with James Cook. The defensive front line, that expensive front line, is doing nothing as they run the same play over and over again. And you're looking at Mike Tomlin, who has always been able to have the answers, and his defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin, has not been able to crack the code. They haven't been able to do it. And this is shocking. It's stunning that the Pittsburgh Steelers can't play great defense in a city that is known for being the Steel City, given the success of their defenses in the 70s, the Steel Curtain. Man, they look nothing like the teams that we're used to seeing in Pittsburgh. And so this brings it all back to Mike Tomlin, who I've said is one of the best coaches that we've seen. He'll go down as one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. 19 years in Pittsburgh, no losing seasons and those things. But now the noise continues to escalate to the point where in the middle of the game, they're saying, fire Mike Tomlin loud over and over and over again. Now, a faction of the fan base has always been on them because they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. And in Pittsburgh, the expectation, the standard is the standard. They expect to play for Super Bowls. They expect to win Super Bowls, and they're not winning playoff games. Understandable. But now you're beginning to wonder, is there really some Mike Tomlin fatigue? Is this a locker room? Is this an organization that's growing weary of the voice of the guy that is in charge? I'm not in the building, so I can't say that, but I will say that we have not seen the Pittsburgh Steelers look like this. Yeah, they've had times where things have been tough. They've had injuries, and we've always been able to count on the Steelers to kind of slug it out and kind of make it through. But the performance against the Buffalo Bills opens up a new can of worms when it comes to one, Mike Tomlin fatigue. But man, how did the Steelers mess this up so bad in the offseason? Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked good. The defense hasn't played up to snuff. And it doesn't appear that Mike Tomlin has the answers. It'll be interesting to see how they close the season, but more importantly, how they attack this roster and this team in the offseason. Finally, let's talk about the Denver Broncos. Stayed up late, watched the Denver Broncos win another tight game, as they've been known to do. They win an overtime. I can't say classic. I was about to say classic. Overtime classic against the Washington Commanders. On a last, like on a breakup on a 2-point play, Nick Bonito comes off the edge. They blitz, they knock it down, and away they go. They win. They have 10 wins, 2 losses. They're sitting at the top of the AFC. They have the number 1 seed in the AFC if the playoffs started today. And you wonder, like, is this fool's gold or is this real? This is a team that has won 8 games by 8 points or fewer, meaning 8 one-score games. They've been able to do it. And it seems kind of hocus pocus, some of the wins that they've been able to do, because it's been improbable to see this team come back. They kind of find a way to get it done in the end versus good teams or bad teams. It doesn't matter. They're winning these games. And what I would tell you is when you look at the Broncos, here's why you shouldn't worry about their ability to win these one-score games. When you look at teams and you're looking for teams that have the Super Bowl winning formula, you have to think about it this way. Do they have the following ingredients? Can they play championship defense? Do they have a Super Bowl coach? And do they have a big time quarterback that can get it done? And even though you may not want to admit it, and it may drive you crazy, when I look at the Denver Broncos, I have to say yes, yes, yes. Championship defense, it goes without saying. They lead the league in sacks. They get it done in so many different ways. Vance Joseph has done a great job creating a defense that no one wants to face. You can talk about those vintage Orange Crush defenses from yesteryear, but this is a different animal. This team gets after it with multiple pass rushers being able to get it done. And it doesn't matter who it is, they all can do it. Nick Bonito has 10.5 sacks. Jonathan Cooper has 7.5. Zach Allen has six, and there are multiple guys that have been able to register and get on the board when it comes to getting sacks. So you love all that of their defense. The other part of this defense that you like is you can attack it not only with the pass rush, but you can do it with the coverage. And when it comes to the coverage, it is Pat Surtain Jr., Pat Surtain the second, coming back, being able to lock up and do those things. But it's also the other guys. Riley Moss being able to hold up in the back end. Jadad Barron hopefully getting into the rotation and being able to do it. But it doesn't matter who they put in the back end. The rush is so good that the ball comes out. And these guys are sticky enough to be right there when it matters. So the defense is up to par. Then when we talk about the coach, and this is where it really matters, Sean Payton being the coach, Sean Payton being the guy that kind of orchestrates everything. He is one of the guys who is able to check his ego to make sure that he plays the offense to complement the defense. And Sean Payton, a Super Bowl winning coach who knows how to get it done, he does a great job of looking at the game as it's going on and changing his calls to fit what the defense is doing and how the defense is playing. When the defense has the game under control, they may be a little more conservative, dial it back, lean on the running game with RJ Harvey kind of carrying the load. They'll do that. When they need to push it up because the defense can't hold the water, they're aired out. They'll find a way to get Bo Nix comfortable on the edge, and they'll get it done. I will say this. When I watch them play, they are whatever they need to be on that given Sunday. And that is a great trait to have, but a lot of that comes from Sean Payton. The other part that comes from Sean Payton is their ability to be situational masters at the end of games. When you think about the way they've been able to close out games in the fourth quarter, the way they've been able to get it done against good teams in the late stages of games, that is all coaching, because coaching is what gives you the great execution. And he's, look, one of the best in the business to do it. Final point. Bo Nix. People may not like Bo Nix. People may not put Bo Nix in that elite category. But, man, Bo Nix is the real deal. Bo Nix has 6 game-winning drives this year. 6 of them. Leads the league in game-winning drives. He gets it done in the fourth quarter. And we can talk about quarterbacks and a lot of different things, but ultimately the quarterback is measured by their ability to win games. He is a winner. And he's been able to do it in the fourth quarter. And what I like about Bo Nix is it's not just him being the IQ player who's able to go through the reads, but it's his athleticism to extend plays and extend plays into either run it or to throw it in critical moments. When I think about the best quarterbacks have extra clubs in their bags that they can lean on when they need it. Bo Nix has that. His intelligence, his athleticism, more importantly, his clutch factor makes the Broncos a very, very dangerous team. I'm not ready to pencil them in as the AFC representative, but in a field that is wide open, I think the Broncos have to be the favorite to represent the AFC and when it comes to the Super Bowl. So that's the Bucky Brooks Show. I'm Bucky Brooks. Make sure you come back and check out all the cool stuff that we're doing on Bleav. Make sure you check out the podcast. Like, rate, review, subscribe, do all the cool things when it comes to. Thanks to our sponsor, FanDuel Sportsbook, for all the things that they do to support the show. Until next time, I'm out.